Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. It's cold and windy up here in the high desert today. The heavy wind coming off the hills, and it's been windy for the last 3 or 4 days, and really just kind of a ugly weather storm coming through, weather front coming through. It's not heavy rain, it's just miserable. You know, wind, cold, a little bit of sleet last night, all night long. It was kind of peppering my windows, but it's just not enough to even really wet the ground, but it's miserable, you know, cold and wind. So it is what it is, and I'm inside right now after I got done with my morning chores, making sure all the dogs are pottied, and go out and do my normal thing to make sure everybody's all right in the morning. A lot of times I'll get up and take off right away to go get breakfast or something, but not even in the mood for that right now, as cold and windy and ugly as it is out there. So I figured that I would go ahead and answer somebody that posted something on the thread regarding to the mad scientist, German Shepherd dog mad scientist, was advocating having a dog go for the weapon hand. And I made a comment about how I work my dogs to go center mass, and he's probably not knowledgeable, and a lot of people aren't. You know, you do this long enough and you start to get a good picture for how things work in a general sense, deterrent-wise, psychological. Your dog's a psychological deterrent, right? So one of the first things that I do, and a lot of trainers out there will start poo-pooing it. Oh, somebody tells you they set a trigger, that's the wrong thing. In other words, to turn a dog on from 0 to 60 and nothing flat is a bad thing. No, that's deterrent factor as far as I'm concerned, right? So in a nutshell, what he's saying is, are you saying it's not good to have the animal go for an extremity, for an arm? You know, and there's shoulder bites, there's arm bites, there's all kinds of things. But what I'm trying to denote is my overall accent with the way I build the dog is to teach a dog to go from my side and strike and grip. In other words, go take his bite in a very strong and aggressive fashion. I want the dog to not just bite, I want him to do a crunch bite. So I condition the dog to come in, to bite, and to crunch. I want disabilitating pain. So I want to crunch and I want to hold, because I don't want the dog to be all over the place and be chewy. And that's just something standard in the protection dog industry for a lot of reasons. And I won't get into all the ins and outs of it, but a lot of it's being influenced from law enforcement when they're worried about liability, and the dog comes off and their canines rip. They rip flesh. So if you're an officer, the way it works in a court of law is the dog has got to go in, bite, and hold, and if he takes and gets chewy and comes off the bite and bites again, you're looking at liability because of that. So they want the dog to strike and to hold, so they teach the dog to push in instead of pull back. And you see the Schutz in the old style was going towards the instincts of the true core instincts of the dog. And they teach the dog to come in and bite and pull back, because that was what they were doing. And that's because the science back then was all about understanding the instincts of the dog and going with that, right? We didn't have a society to worry about as much. We were just getting this all going, right? 70s, 80s, all this evolution of our profession in regards to what we do and getting the dog to do his job. So there's a lot of influences with the law enforcement now starting to creep into civilian training, right? And what they're doing is affecting us in protection, right? But here's the point. I want a dog to be a psychological deterrent. If I have to use him, I want him to come in like a shit brick house. In other words, to nail you like a train, okay? To have such a body blow coming in so hard, and it's very intimidating to have a dog right up in your grill, okay? And that's what it's all about. It goes to the psychology of everything, right? I want a dog that comes in high and uses his body. If you ever see my dogs work, Buddy, Joker, they don't just come in and just bite you. They drive, right? Joker not as much as Buddy, but when Buddy comes in, he hits you like a freight train, right? So it's a huge old explosion. It all happens at once, and it's psychological. I don't want the dog sitting there fighting with you forever. I want you to go down. I want you down on the ground so I can deal with you, right? And or hell, get the hell out, right? So when you're talking to law enforcement, life is very fluid. You never know what's going to happen. So you have to be prepared for anything. And so when you start advocating these little individual things, going for the gun hand, going for the weapon hand, that kind of crap, you're going to end up with a situation. You think it's cute and it looks good on film, and oh, look at that, oh my God, the dog almost bit my hand. Dogs are going to go for the hand a lot of times anyway. It's just the way it works, but you're in the middle of a firefight. So in other words, I want my dog to come in like a train, hit you like a shit brick house, and then go for that crunch bite. And I want it to happen that quick so that you don't have the time to think, because man has the ability to think. And if he can grab a weapon, if he or she, whatever, he can hurt your dog, right? So it's all about psychology, right? So I want the dog to hit center mass because, again, I want that dog right up in your grill. I want him to come, boom, right? And if he takes a shoulder bite, if he takes an arm, all this is going to happen within the training, right? Somebody made a foo-foo comment about didn't want the dog getting all wound up when he saw a guy in a big old pillow suit. In other words, the suits that they wear, right? They look like a big old doughboy, right? And that's what happens. The dogs get equipment happy. They see the guy in a suit and they just go ape shit. It's the suit that's stimulating over time with training, right? I want to take that away as much as I can as I get advanced. When you get to a certain level, you start doing muzzle work, underarm sleeve work, you start doing scenarios, you do everything to prepare the dog psychologically for that it could happen at any time. You don't know when something's going to happen. I go down to the store, I'm walking around, it's kind of dark, and I go around a corner and here comes the bad guy. You know what I mean? You just don't know, right? So you try to prepare the dog for any eventuality. But those things of what I've learned in protection, when I condition a dog, I condition him to come in, bite as deep in the mouth as he possibly can, as fast, and crunch bite. Okay? It's not just a regular bite. You know, I've got decoys that I've worked with before. And one of them's a well-known decoy. I won't mention his name, but he taught Joker to push for me. Right? In other words, he was good at the suit work, and I'd done a lot of work with Joker, but a lot of it was just kind of a Schutzen type of a pull. Right? So I wanted to accent and really work on teaching the dog to push. So I got the decoy, and a good friend of mine, and we went out and started working on it. And he had it. Nowadays, when Joker comes in, he pushes into the bite because he's been taught how, right? And so he does that, right? So it's all about psychological effect on the bad guy and having it happen, done and over with. Now, when you get into the realities of life, reality in life, you're not an officer. Reality in life says, I really don't want my dog to bite anybody. The liability is too high. If my dog bites somebody, I'm going to end up in court and have to fight the situation. Reality, even if the guy's a bad guy. Now, they break into my house, different story. But again, same thing. I want that dog coming in hard, heavy, and boom, right into the center mass. Now, I don't want, you can't, trying to bite on the chest is not as easy. Can he? Sure he can. He's going to end up being worked in all kinds of other ways. He's going to do inner arm bites. He's going to do an outer arm bite. He's going to do legs. He's going to do, because I'm going to take the dog, and when I condition the animal, I'm going to take the dog from teaching him to go up high and handle all the up top. That's usually what I do in the very beginning. I teach the dog to hit like a freight train and come in heavy and hard and take his bite, crunch bite. All that development's got to be done when the dog's young. And once I get the dog used to doing all that on the on the top half, then I start going out and I find myself some good French decoys and French ring, because they're the best out there for lower extremities, for leg bites. Why? Because that's part of the whole sport of their sport, right? So they know how to get a dog conditioned to go to the lower half, right? Then I'll start working the dog on his entries and going into the lower half, right? So that the dog is prepared overall to be able to handle any situation that comes at him, because that's life. You never know what's going to happen, right? But it's psychological. Right? So that's the way I condition my animal. Again, up top first, and all that work has to be done up top. When he's good at that, then I start going out and I start doing the bottom half. And I get the dog, I want the dog to nail you anywhere he needs to, right? I used to have a dog, Thunder, I got from Caesar Milan. And Caesar did a lot of the work, dog whisperer. And he did a lot of the decoy work. A lot of people don't realize that. Caesar was hanging with me for 2-3 years, and we were working tables and tabletop. Went to Arizona, did a couple seminars, was all over the place working tables when they were anti. There was a lot of anti-attitude back then. And nowadays, everybody uses tables in bite work, right? So I've been here for a lot of friggin' years. And so I have a pretty good understanding of what I want to do to condition a dog to be able to handle any eventuality, because, again, it's life. You don't know. But reality and truth, that dog is there to deter the situation if you're going to have him do that and do it in the right way. And I have a whole litany of how I build my customers up to understand what a dog is all about and what their job is. And the biggest thing their job is psychological deterrent. How many people are going to go into a backyard with a big old dog going crazy on the fence, and most bad guys are just going to pass it by. Thanks, but no thanks, right? That's psychological deterrent, right? And so we set that up as much as we can within the environmental aspects of teaching the customer how to do the job. Example of that. When I have my dogs and with my customers, I have my customers get to be as good as they can possibly get with their obedience and all that. I want them out there being proud of it. I want them showing off. I want the neighbors to know that they've got a well-trained dog. And then when I do my protection work, we'll get to a point where the dog's doing bite work and we start doing it at the home and things. I want that work to be done on the weekends. Why? Most people are always home on the weekends. Right? So that your neighbors are seeing this guy show up and start doing the protection work around in and around your house, right? And then people talk, right? Neighbor talks to one neighbor, the neighbor. That's the biggest deterrent factor you got, right? Social, right? And now everybody knows you got a protection dog in the neighborhood, and they know better to mess with you. And that's just little things that I tell my customers all the time. Your next door neighbor, your guy that lives down the way, is the worst enemy you've got. You know, you don't have friends except your direct family. Why? Because that guy's got a 12-year-old, 16, 18. They start going through development of a child. They get into drugs. They get into this and that. The first thing they do, they know when you come home. They know when you leave. They know where you go. They know your regular routine. Who do you think's going to break into your house? Familiarity, right? The guy down the street that knows when you come and go is the guy that's breaking into your house, okay? It's not somebody from across town or 2 towns over that just says, oh, I'm going to go rob a house. Right? They do their homework, and they have this, and then boom, the kid crawls over your fence, goes into your house, and rips you off when you're not there. Right? So psychological deterrent is your biggest asset with a dog. It's your most important one. Everything else is just playing games, guys, because I don't want my dog to have to bite somebody. But if I want to prepare him the best I can, that's my job as a trainer, to prepare that dog for the best eventuality or the most likely eventuality of something happening, and having enough scenarios, enough things that dog knows his job, right? It's psychological deterrent, right? So going after the gun hand and thinking you're going to be cute and thinking that's a reliable type of a thing, no, it's not, because your dog is not going to, it's not going to happen, okay? In real life, when it comes down to it, your biggest thing is that asset of that dog is how fast and how well he does his job as quick as possible, right? To take away that person's ability to think, okay, and put him into a debilitating pain and put his ass on the ground as quick as you can, right? That takes away all the other eventuality of something negative happening, right? Guy grabs a board off to the side, smacks your dog in the head, or 1,000, 1,000,001 things can happen. And it all comes down to the fact that you're not a cop, okay? You're just trying to use your animal the best you can to set up a psychological deterrent and to go out and have fun working your dog and to build that dog to the best ability that you can so the dog does his job. And if you ask anybody around here that knows me, they know my dogs will bite them for real, okay? You know, that's just the way it is. When you're a professional trainer and you've been doing it for as long as I have, your dog is going to do his job, right? And that's the way it works. I mean, I got this trainer in LA that's now getting into hanging with the cops a little bit, and they're going out and doing a bunch of scenarios. He's having a great time doing it, and he's now teaching his dog to be more of a, well, not more of, but personal protection / sport. And all the power to him. It looks, and now he's starting to get to play with some other things, muzzle work, scenarios, more real life type of events, and more discussion and more slants towards how would you handle this situation if, right? If, right? And we all go through this. This is what we're always thinking about, you know, the worst case scenario, right? But the dog has to be stable. He has to be good with people. He has to be a stable individual in society overall. I don't want a vicious dog behind the fence. I don't want a dog that's not reliable, okay? And I don't want a cop dog. I'm not doing pursuits. I'm not going to do door popping and get that dog's prey drive to go so high that he's a nut going after somebody down the block. It's not going to happen in my world. I'm not a law enforcement officer. That's not my job, and I'm not going to put myself at risk in that regards. You know, you're going to go to jail. Something bad's going to happen, right? So reality in life comes into it. So your question is well-meaning. And I understand it because you're not educated like I am in the areas that I have been doing my whole life, right? But reality and truth is, remember, your dog is more of a psychological deterrent than he is anything else. And you want to try to prepare him for the best you can to be able to, the eventuality, if it ever, God forbid, ever happened, that your dog would be able to do his job in the best fashion and handle the situation. So my personal opinion, okay, is that I want a dog that goes up high and hits center mass and comes right in the grill, right? I don't want him going through your throat. I don't want him going, but when you're out there and you're going to try to strike the dog, he's going to bite whatever's moving right towards him, right? And we do all kinds of things that we're working on, you know, on biting on left arm, on right arm. I want to balance my dog. I want him to bite anything that's there that he's got that's an opportunity for, but I don't want him thinking, I'm going to go to the weapon hand, right? I want him right up in your grill, and I want him coming so fast and hit you like a shit brick house, like a train, okay, and take you down, right? That's what I want. Right? Psychological is, there's no more intimidating thing than having a dog come at you and be right in your grill. Okay? That's why I teach center mass. Okay? All right, I'm done. Long litany of answer here. 15 minutes for yakking at the screen trying to tell somebody why we do what we do. Talk to you later.